Hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid-crisis life. So I was in court last week and the week before. So one of the things that I do in my current job is um, I can't be bothered to explain the whole thing, but basically, when children are being removed from their parents and they're being placed into the care of the local authority, there's a lot of things that need to happen, right? There's a lot of reports that get written. There's a lot of work that as a social worker you have to do. Now, thankfully, I don't actually have to do any of that in my role. What my role is my role is kind of like an overseer of everything. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that everything that should be done is being done. My job is, oh, my ear hurts. My job is to be the voice of the child in court. So when the local authority are taking a parent to court, because ultimately they can't decide to just take your child away. It has to go through court, and the judge has to make a decision based on all of the evidence that he or she has in front of them. But when you're in court, obviously, if you're in a court arena, um, everybody gets a lawyer, right? Everyone gets a solicitor, everyone gets legal representation. So both parents will have legal representation, the local authority will have legal representation, but then also the children in the matter have to be legally represented as well. But because oftentimes they're very young, too young to really understand what's going on, to get their heads around it, maybe too traumatized, maybe um, their situation has been too normalized for them to really know actually what's good for them or what's safe, what's a risk, what's not a risk, what normal parent is. Um, they're often not able to instruct their own solicitor. After a certain age, they get given a choice, particularly if they are disagreeing with something that I'm saying and they want a different outcome to that which I think is best for them, then they can go and get separate representation. But to the fore, what happens is that the legal representation is managed by someone in my role. So I will instruct that solicitor about what I think is best for these children. And essentially, it's just the same thing, really. You're looking at risk, you're looking at how risk can be mitigated, you're looking at parents' capacity to change, you're looking at whether they have the insight to understand even what's going on, you're looking at how significantly these children have been harmed and what the likelihood is that they're going to be harmed if they go back home. And even if things can change, what time frame can that happen in? So what is the time scale for which this parent can do the work that needs to be done in order for that child to be able to go home? Because it's all very well and good saying, no, I do think this parent can change, but it's going to be after like 5 years of intensive therapy and this child is 12. Okay, by the time they go home, they're 17. Or, even if they're there, nothing's changing for the next 5 years, right? So my job is to be the voice of that child and to be able to think, okay, if I was this child, what would I want? Like, yes, with my social work head on, I would want to be safe. I would want to have a home where there was no risk. Or minimal risk, because you can't eliminate risk. That would be ridiculous. But where there's minimal risk to my safety. But I would also want to see my mum. I would want to see my dad. I would want to have a relationship with my siblings if they're not in the same place as me. So it's also looking at all of that and looking at not only whether I agree with what the local authority's plan is, but is there anything that they've missed? Is there another chance that we can give? Is there something more that we can do to keep these children at home? Do I think that they should be seeing their parents more? Like, do I really think that the plan that they've got for these parents and the amount of contact that they're going to have with these parents once they're in the care of the local authority, do I think that's okay? Do I think that the placement that they're in is suitable for them? So there's all of these things that I'm thinking about. But ultimately, what happens is there's a final hearing, and at that final hearing, the judge will listen to every single piece of evidence. And many of the people who have entered, some of the most substantial, crucial evidence into court will have to come up and they'll have to give evidence and they'll have to be cross-examined by everybody. So they'll have to be cross-examined by the local authorities, legal representation, the counsel for both parents, and then also the counsel for the children, who is represented by the guardian. Anyway, I was in court over the last few days for a case where I had done all this work, right? And I remember just thinking, this whole process is so adversarial. And I mean, in some ways, rightly so, because if you just going into someone's house and being like, pluck, you can't have your kids anymore, I would imagine that would create some adversity, right? It'd be like, oh, okay, never mind, that's all good then, you take them. I don't think any parent would do that, right? So naturally, people are going to be in opposition to one another. But watching the whole court process, it reminded me, oh yeah, this is a really adversarial process where everybody wants to win, everybody wants to prove their point, everybody wants to put in their evidence, everybody wants to fight their corner. And I'm watching these solicitors go at it, right? With their clever arguments and, their paragraphs that they've highlighted and, the semantics of what someone said that could mean something else. And now they're going to use that differently. And what about this on this day? And I put it to you that this, that, and the other. And they're also very, very, very clever. They're very, very clever. Well done. Yes, amazing. And that is their job. I get it. And the funny thing is that they walk out the courtroom and they're all like best buddies, like let's go have a coffee together. And that was a really good point you made there, my long learned friend, and all of that. And yeah, of course, because you don't want to be emotionally tied to what you're doing and hate some random person just because he's representing someone who you're against in court. But man, it just seems a little nuts to me. And it made me think about this book that I read over the summer called The Man Who Forgot His Wife. And it's a really, really funny book. Really hilarious, really well written, very, very funny. But it's essentially about this guy who gives himself amnesia because his life is going down the toilet and he wakes up and he just has no idea who he is, where he is, what's going on in his life. And then slowly but surely finds out some information and then finds out, oh, I'm divorcing my wife of 20 years, this person who I love so much. Like, I know I love this person. And in the end, he just kind of like this, forgetting all of that gives him this new perspective and he fights for his marriage and he doesn't want to be at loggerheads with this person in court anymore. And he realizes how far things have gone because of that seed that was planted at the beginning, that seed of like, I don't like you. And then how that then turns into this massive litigation and they're fighting over every single tiny little thing. And he's just like, what am I doing? Just have the house. Why would I want to take the house from you? And put my children in a place where they like in a tiny little house where they're not going to be happy, right? Anyway, sorry, I had to charge my phone. So yeah, anyway, as I was sitting there and I was watching everything happen and all the rest of it, and watching everybody, be really clever and make all these clever little notes and come up with all these clever little arguments. And to be honest, even I started doing it, right? Because at the end of the day, I also do have to justify why I am recommending what I'm recommending, why maybe I've looked at one thing and seen it in a certain way, why maybe I've discounted other things, because, just it's a big deal, it's a big thing. You're taking someone's children away, and that is not done lightly. That's not done lightly. No matter what people in this country may think about social workers, they think that we're just trying to steal children. We just want to steal all your children and take your children away because we love children and we want them and we hate parents. And it's like, no, we really don't want to do that. Firstly, we want to keep you guys together. That is number one paramount principle is a no order principle, right? Do not make an order unless it is absolutely necessary to do that, unless not making an order is going to put a child in harm's way. But it is not a decision that is made lightly. It really isn't. And that's why you really do have to evidence what it is that you're doing. And that is why it can be easy to kind of fall prey to that thing of well, I'm just going to make my argument. My argument is going to be watertight and there's nothing that you can do about it. Anyway, so I was kind of doing that as well, right? Because I don't want to get up on the stand and be embarrassed, um, and not be able to justify why I think the things that I think, right? And then one of the parents got up on the stand, and I remember watching this person, and all of a sudden it just hit me. Like, it hit me right there. And I just remember thinking, like, God, please, God, please, do not ever let me become hardened to the fact that this is someone's life, that this is someone's heart, this is someone's mental health that we're talking about. This is a real person who is existing and experiencing things on this world. And whatever we might think of them, and whatever they may or may not have done to their children, and no matter how abhorrent we might believe that is, no matter how abhorrent we might think that is, these are just people, very broken people, who need help, who need support. And even though, usually by the time you get to court, it's because no matter what support, no matter what help has been given, no matter what has been done, you're not able to change. I think there's a difference between saying, no matter what we did, you ain't changing. Clearly, you don't want to change. I think there's a difference between saying that and saying, no matter what we've done, you still don't seem to be able to make the changes that you need to. There's something in you that's very broken. And I guarantee if you could fix that like that and do everything that you needed to do, you would do it. Nobody would sacrifice their children, a relationship with their children, having their children at home with them. Nobody would sacrifice that for any selfish act, selfish deed, selfish want, selfish desire, selfish behavior. Nobody would do that just out of selfishness alone. And I think it's just really important to remember, because I think we as people are very quick to judge. We're very quick to judge when we see that somebody else is behaving in a way that is harmful to you, harmful to, their children, their parents, their partner, someone else, or even harmful to themselves. We're very, very quick to judge. And I think just like court, our relationships can become quite adversarial. We can start totting up evidence and points and data that justifies our points, that justifies our reactions, our treatment, our thought processes, our perception, our opinions of those people. But I just don't think it's the way to move forward. I think the way to move forward is to realize that these people are broken and that they need love, that they need help, they need support, they need understanding, they need compassion. Because I tell you something, there's never been a point in my life where I've been like, oh, you've treated me enough like shit. Now I get it. Oh my God, you just needed to treat me like crap a little while longer and it's just clicked. I want to change. I want to be better. I realise now everywhere I've gone wrong. No, people need to be held and they need to be supported to go through and process whatever it is that has caused them to be the way that they are, to fail so spectacularly at life. I don't think that's a choice that anybody makes. And there is something to be said about, choosing to stay there and whatever else. But if you don't know the way out, if you can't see a way out, is it really a choice? And if there's no one there to hold your hand and say, hey, come, follow me. Oh, you're not ready? Okay, that's fine. I'll be here waiting for you with my hand out when you're ready. I don't know. I mean, I caveat that with having your own boundaries and, not breaking yourself in order to save someone. I'm not saying everybody needs to go out there and have savior complex, because no, that's not healthy and it's not helpful. And really, that's just more like enabling that person to, I don't know, feed your ego, right? But if it's not coming from that ego place and it really is just coming from an understanding of like, we're all broken a little bit, and that's really sad, and I don't want to punish you for it. And maybe I can't save you, but I'm not going to condemn you, It's like, what would Jesus do, right? What would Jesus do? He wouldn't just be like, oh, no, you're fucked up. Just, I can't stand you anymore. Figure it out yourself. Right. And even if you don't believe in God or you don't believe in Jesus, it's pretty sound advice as far as I'm concerned. And I think if we can have a little bit more of that in the world, then maybe we could have a little less wars, a little less broken societies, a little less broken people, because all of that starts from broken people, right? I mean, look at Hitler. He was just sad and pissed off and a bit bitter. Maybe he just needed a hug. Maybe Hitler just needed a hug and a little bit of time, and those atrocities might not have happened. I think that's my theory in a nutshell. Hug a Hitler. What more can I say? I think that's it. I think that's the note to leave it on. Something to be grateful for. I'm really grateful for that parent for reminding me of that through their brokenness and their humility, and how sad that situation really was to watch that. And I don't think I'd forgotten it, but maybe got a little bit lost in the fray. I'm really, really grateful to them for reminding me that we all just need a little bit of love, Yeah. That's it.